Does Will Howard have the competitive mindset that Ohio State needs in its starting quarterback?
You are Locked On Buckeyes, your daily podcast on the Ohio State Buckeyes. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome in, Buckeye fans, to a Monday edition of Locked On Buckeyes, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Here on Monday, July 22nd in the year 2024, I'm your host, Jay Stevens, also the host of the Jay Stevens Podcast, and today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Make every moment more. As playoffs wind down, the sports stop sporting like we want them to. But this summer, FanDuel is hooking up all customers with a boost or a bonus daily. That's right. There's something for everyone every day all summer long. Visit FanDuel.com to get started. For the first time in Ryan Day's tenure as head coach in Columbus, the Buckeyes have back-to-back seasons with a quarterback competition. Last year, heading into fall camp, it was Devin Brown versus Kyle McCord. This year, going into fall camp, it's Will Howard versus Devin Brown versus Julian Sand. These quarterback competitions, they're really intense and they ramp up once fall camp starts, more intense than they were previously. And Will Howard is a guy that many people believe, myself included, that he will be and should be Ohio State starting quarterback. But based on some things that I recently read and a video I watched on the YouTube, I'm starting to wonder, even if he is the best option, does he have the competitive mindset the Buckeyes need in their starting quarterback? And this goes back to something that a writer for 247 Sports that covers Kansas State, he put a video out there on the YouTube talking about something very important to Will Howard's time at Kansas State. And then Chris Kleiman, the K-State head coach, made a bold proclamation about Avery Johnson, who was the man that took over for Will Howard in Kansas State. And it made me wonder, if what they're saying is true, man, Ohio State might have another thing coming if Will Howard is the guy. Now, Chris Kleiman, in a statement that he made, I'm talking about Avery Johnson, he made this statement and quote about Avery Johnson, the new starting quarterback, and he was Will Howard's backup last year, quote, he believes that he should be the best quarterback in this league. Now, we have to go out and prove it, but there's a belief that is there. We saw enough last year for us to know that he was going to be the guy long-term for us. He was ready for the moment. I told him when I recruited him, I knew he was going to be the face of the program, end quote. Now, I don't think Chris Kleiman will just make that statement out of nowhere, just because, or pull it out of thin air and say, oh, boy, here we go. Here's the statement, put it all together, wrap it up really good, put a bull on that package and say, bam, here you go. I don't think he would do that. And then this writer for Kansas State, he says, hey, everybody in the building on the practice field knows that Avery Johnson, and they believe he's a generational player. Now, I'm going to stop here and make this statement. Ain't no way everybody that's a generational player out there is actually a generational player. So I have not seen enough about Avery Johnson to say that he is that, but I do know this is used too much to describe players and how they play. And then he goes on to say, well, everybody knew one thing: Will Howard was not promised a job at the end of last season in Kansas State. Number two, people also knew the starting quarterback this year would have been Avery Johnson, even if Will Howard was still there. And so some people are saying, yeah, Will Howard moved to Ohio State. He wanted to raise his draft stock. He wanted to win a national championship, and cool, I get that. But if he's leaving the Dodge competition, we got some issues. Because I've seen him on the field compete. I have seen him grind. I have seen him do really good things. That was a couple seasons ago. Last year, he had a split time a little bit, played 12 games last year for K-State. Avery Johnson played 8. Now, Johnson's numbers were not as good as Will Howard's. He did have more rushing yards and yards per carry than Will Howard, but we all know with the quarterback position, the premium is on throwing the ball. That's where Howard was the better option there a year ago. Ohio State's going to have a lot on their plate if they realize, hey, this competition on off season, we think it's exactly what it needs to be. We think he's competing against guys that are really, 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 really good, but in reality, maybe they're not. Maybe the guys you think that he's competing against, if he wins a job, he's winning it because he's the best option, and you don't really get to test his competitive nature, his competitive mindset in practice. They're going to do everything they need to do to test it in the ways that they need to. However, let's just say he is dodging competition. I don't know. I am only able to relay things that I hear and that I read about things going on over there in Kansas State. But if he is dodging competition, whoo, what's going to happen in Austin Stadium? What's going to happen at Beaver Stadium? What's going to happen when Michigan comes to town? What's going to happen when Iowa comes to town and Nebraska comes to town and you go to East Lansing? What's going to happen then? This is not a spot where you can just dodge competition. You can run away from things. You could just, I got the talent around me that's good enough. I don't have to compete. I don't have to have the right mindset and to grind and do what is needed for me to win this thing. You can't do that. You can't do it at all. Now, you've heard me on this show. The Everydayers realize I have said numerous times, I think Will Howard is the kind of player and the kind of athlete and quarterback that will get things done. They can go to Autzen Stadium and win. They can go to Happy Valley and win. That can have Michigan come into the shoe and win. I believe those things about Will Howard. But let's just say what we're hearing about him is true. It would force me to reevaluate my analysis of Will Howard because there's new information here. And the new information is something that, well, is very important for Will Howard as he might be Ohio State's QB1. I am saying all of this about Will Howard, and I don't even know if he's going to start a game for the Buckeyes in Columbus. We know he came here to start. I don't think Ryan Day would go out there and get a seasoned vet in Will Howard and go out there and say, hey, come to Columbus, come do these things, got this NIL package. Maybe it'll be over $1 million. Maybe it'll not be. I'm not sure how much the dollar and cents are when it comes to his NIL package that I'm sure he got something when he committed to Ohio State. But man, we don't want 2 years in a row the same thing we got last year. And I've been saying this. I've made a statement numerous times, and I'll make it again. I still don't know if Will Howard is a major upgrade over Kyle McCord. This was not the way that I wanted to start the week of Big Ten Media Days and lead into the massive 3-day event this week in Lucas Oil Stadium in Indianapolis, Indiana. Tomorrow, Ohio State will be front and center. We'll be covering this event all week long. Didn't want to do this on a Monday. However, I think this is very, 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 very important. You're in a QB battle, Will Howard, with Devin Brown, who's been at Ohio State the longest of any quarterback in Columbus. You have a quarterback competition with a newcomer in Julian Sand, who's more accurate than him. However, does he have the physical tools? Is he big enough and strong enough to withstand the hits that he's going to take on the football field as a true freshman, potentially? I don't know. All I know Ohio State needs is a competitor at quarterback. JT Barrett wasn't the best thrower of the football. Wasn't the best quarterback overall. But he may be the fiercest competitor Ohio State has seen play the quarterback position. I'm not going to say of all time or ever. I said may, because there's been a lot of years of Ohio State football, and I have not been alive to even see all them years. So I cannot say that. But if we're questioning a man's competitive mindset, if we're questioning a man's competitive nature, if we're questioning things as far as, hey, maybe he didn't want to compete previously, so he left, is that something that may trickle into the next spot where he plays football? Yes. But that doesn't mean that it's going to. With thinking about Will Howard's competitive mindset in regards to things going on at his previous school and maybe why he left and ultimately came to Ohio State, how does this factor into Ohio State's quarterback competition right now in regards to the three men that he's battling with to be QB1? I'll tell you next. This episode is brought to you by FanDuel. I love sports. I love them so much, I never want them to stop. But as the playoffs wind down, we get fewer games, and the sports aren't sporting like I want them to. But FanDuel lets me keep sports going whenever I want. All I have to do is open the app and dream up bets anytime I'm in the mood. And this summer, FanDuel is hooking up all customers with a boost or a bonus daily. That's right. There's something for everyone every day all summer long. So head over to FanDuel.com and start making the most out of your summer. FanDuel, official sports betting partner of Major League Baseball. Are you watching Fox Sports or ESPN on your TV all day? Have to turn down the volume with all that shouting? Make the switch to Locked On Sports Today, a free 24/7 sports streaming channel program for you every day to bring you the biggest stories without all the screaming. Locked On Sports Today brings you can't miss analysis, opinions, and news, streaming 24/7 on YouTube or the free Amazon Fire TV channels app, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Thank you for making Locked On Buckeyes your first listen or first watch of every single day. One thing the everydayers have heard a lot about this offseason is the Ohio State quarterback battle. It's Will Howard. It's Devin Brown. It's Julian Sand. Those are the top three guys. I don't think Lincoln Kienholz has a shot to be QB1 this year, and I don't think Aaron Nolan has a shot to be QB1 this year. For the first time in Ryan Day's tenure, he's having back-to-back seasons of having a quarterback competition. 2019, Justin Fields transfers in from Georgia. Ryan Day gets promoted to be a Buckeyes head coach. What do you have? Justin Fields wasn't named starting quarterback until the second week of fall camp that year in 2019. But everybody and their mama knew it was Justin Fields' job. They just waited to give it to officially name him the starting quarterback. But everybody knew that was his job. Fast forward a couple years later, 2021, it was Miller III, Jack Miller III to be specific, and CJ Stroud. But everybody and their mama knew it was Stroud's job and Stroud's competition to win. Why? The previous year, in, I believe, the Sugar Bowl against Clemson, what did we find in that game? In that season in 2020, I believe it was 2020, there was a time that Miller III came on the field first. There was a time that Stroud came on the field first. When Fields went down against Clemson, he had the big hit, came out. Who went on the field once? Stroud immediately came on the field. I think he was in there for one play, came off. Fields came on there, threw that touchdown pass to Olave, and then the game was basically over. I mean, they were just clicking. He was in that zone, and there was nothing Clemson could do to stop them on that day. Last year, it was only a two-man race with McCord and Devin Brown. McCord won that thing, and actually didn't officially win it. So I think after week number 2, that was when it was officially announced that he would be starting quarterback. And this year, there's a three-man race. You got to only imagine what it's like for Ryan Day and Chip Kelly and Brian Hartline to be guys that are trying to figure out who is going to be the starting quarterback for Ohio State this year. Now, the reality of this is it's a three-man race. But by this point in time in the offseason, especially when fall camp starts about a week and a half from now, about a week from now, what do you want to look at? You want to make sure and say, hey, these are the guys that can win it, and how can we shorten this thing down once fall camp starts? Think about how it was. Now, I never played a sport back in high school or middle school where there were cuts. I did not. I played football in middle school. I never played any travel or tryout sports prior to that. So I played football 7th and 8th grade year. In high school, I played football and threw shot put for a couple years, freshman to sophomore. Was not that good at throwing the shot put or discus, but it was fun. It was really enjoyable to try to expand work on conditioning and work on quickness and explosion, things like that help me on the football field. So one thing I realized, and you see it on TV if you've never been a part of this, in basketball, in baseball, in softball, a lot of sports, there's cuts. Basketball tryouts start, and everybody goes out there. There might be 50 guys to start. You got 12 roster spots. There might be 3 days of tryouts. First day of tryouts, coach says, okay, we're going to go from 50 to 35. You're like, whoa, 50 to 35 in one day? Yeah. You kind of got to whittle this thing out. You got to try to figure out, well, okay, we know you're here. Should you be here tomorrow based off what you showed me today? Okay, day 2, going from 35 to 20, going to cut another 15 guys. Whoa, to 30, wait, to 20? Yeah, 15, yeah, why? Because you don't want to have those same 35 on the final day of cuts. It's going to make your job a whole lot harder. And then on day 3, you're going to go from 20 to 12. Finalize that roster, figure out who is here, figure out where things are going to be. And honestly, on that day 3, some of those guys might be young enough to play junior varsity for you. So you're saying, well, you're not going to be on the varsity. You're going to be on the JV. You might have a chance to move up in the tournament time and playoffs. Why? Because we do that around here. Okay. Ryan Day and these coaches need to have the same mindset. It's going to be a really mind-boggling thing if the coaches at Ohio State keep rolling the fall camp and say, oh, this is a 3-man race. We want to try to figure out and have a starting quarterback named by the between the weeks 2 and week 3 of fall camp. Man, it's going to be so hard. It's going to be difficult. Also, the decision is going to be hard no matter what. Doesn't matter if it's going to be Will Howard winning the job or Devin Brown winning the job or Julian Sand winning the job. It doesn't matter who it's going to be. Making this decision is going to be so hard. But Ryan Day can help himself. Chip Kelly can help himself. They're smart coaches. They're smart men. They've been doing this for a long time. They know how to make this thing done, get this thing done. And Ryan Day has learned from him. Hopefully, I am hoping, because y'all don't want me to come on here and talk about another mistake Ryan Day made that he made last year. He said he don't want to do it again, but he may do it again this year. This thing should not trickle into the regular season at all. At all. Maybe that was something he got from Jim Harbaugh when it was K. McNamara and J.J. McCarthy a couple years ago. Ultimately, J.J. McCarthy won that award as QB1 in Ann Arbor. After that season, Cade McNamara ended up transferring to Iowa of all places. The Hawkeyes offense is trash. So you can only imagine what it would have been for Cade McNamara to leave Ann Arbor to go to play for the Hawkeyes. He did it. Now, maybe Ryan Day was trying to pull a Jim Harbaugh and pull a move from him. Maybe. I don't know if that's the case. He might be leaving Columbus here really soon, win a national championship in dip. I'm not making predictions on if the Buckeyes will do that or not. I'm just saying, if you're following in Harbaugh's footsteps, hopefully not. But if you are, they might be dipping after winning the Natty. Then Ohio State's going to have a whole big old problem on their hands. Ultimately, make sure you go in there with 2. For real. You don't want them problems. You don't want that mistake. You don't want them issues to go into fall camp with 3 still the same number you had at the end of spring practice and say, oh, we're still going to be battling, still going to be doing this, still going to be doing that. And what do you find? Y'all making this thing a whole lot harder on yourselves than you need to. Should be a 2-man race. Maybe Devin Brown, Will Howard. I probably will lean that way. I don't think Julian Sand. If Julian Sand were a sophomore, it'd be a different conversation. I got a hard time believing a true freshman should be the guy as starting quarterback. If he should be the guy, that's just a lot about Will Howard and Devin Brown. Speaking of decisions saying a lot about athletes and players in Columbus, who is named captain at Ohio State says a lot about them and the type of individual athlete and human being they are. I'm going to predict who I think should be Ohio State captains this year. It's coming at you next. Thank you for making Locked On Buckeyes your first listen every day. The everydayers over the past few years have heard me do this around this time. Sometimes it goes into August and into fall camp, but this seemed like the perfect time leading into Big Ten Media Days. We already know the players that will be representing Ohio State at this massive event. And why not use those 3 guys to kind of catapult us into a conversation about predicting who the captains will be at Ohio State? I thought about doing 6. I thought about doing 8. Thought about doing 10. Now, if I did 10, or if I did 10, it'd be more of a rotating basis. Like, these are the 10 guys, but of course, even if you have 6 or 8, you're not rolling out all 6 or all 8 to the opening kickoff of the game. You're not going to do that. So some guys will go out there a little bit, some guys will not. But I thought 10 would be too high. I thought 6 would be a good number, but I think with the guys that are at Ohio State and as many vets the Buckeyes have right now, I feel like 8 would be a good number to kind of pinpoint and say these should be the captains at Ohio State this year. First guy is also the guy I think should wear the Blocko jersey is Jack Sawyer. Man, if Ohio State gets what they got the last half of last season from Sawyer, if they get that for the whole season this year, man, you're looking at a guy that's a future All-American. And that's not something I say lightly. And also, that's not something I thought I would say about Jack Sawyer until we saw how things started to click at the end of last year. It reminded me a little bit about Trey Sermon in 2020. Sermon came in, transferred, had the off year of 2020, didn't get to really get ramped up into the Ohio State offense and the install like he would like to. All of a sudden, when he was recovered from injury and he figured out that offense, buddy, everything clicked. Big Ten championship. I don't believe they beat Northwestern in 2020 if it weren't for Trey Sermon and really, well, also Justin Hilliard on defense that really helped Ohio State in that game. You go to the game against Clemson and the game against Alabama, but Ohio State wasn't going to win the game anyway, just being honest with you. However, it would have been, maybe the score would have been a whole lot closer, a little bit closer if Sermon would have been able to play the entire game. So Jack Sawyer's number 1. Number 2 for me is Denzel Burke. Sawyer's a guy who's an Ohio kid, That's also someone that's been grinding and really embodies everything Ohio State wants from a captain, from a football player. Denzel Burke's a 4-year starter. How many guys can you think of that are 4-year starters? I'll wait. I'll gladly wait. Because you may think about JT Barrett being a 4-year starter. No, he was not. 14, 15, 16. Oh, that was a 4-year starter. Excuse me. Slow myself down a little bit. I totally. Like, he went to the season in 14, supposed to be the backup. He ended up being thrust into the starting role due to Braxton Miller's injury. Wow, that was a little odd. He was a 4-year starter. That just goes to show the type of man that JT Barrett was. But Denzel Burke, honestly, Barrett's the first thing that comes to my mind. I can't think of another 4-year starter. Garrett Wilson would have been, but he left early. Can't think of one. Anyways, Denzel Burke is a guy that 4-year starter. I mean, he could have gone to the NFL, said, no, we got unfinished business. We've heard this story over and over and over about Burke and his importance. But I think for that secondary, no matter if it's a safety spot or the corner spot, if you need a leader in that secondary, I think Burke's your guy. He has also been very, very vocal about expectations, natty or bust, about players and Jeremiah Smith, and being able to really be a spokesperson for the team. That's what you want in a captain. And a senior, a veteran, that's Denzel Burke. Emeka Egbuka, let's go to the offense real quick. Also, those 3 guys are the 3 guys representing Ohio State at Big Ten Media Days, which to me was a no-brainer that they would be captains, to me, predicted to be captains. Emeka Egbuka is another one. Could have gone to the NFL. Last year, battle injuries. If you did not battle injury, you're talking about a guy in Egbuka that was, I mean, he may have broke Ohio State records a year ago for career receptions, career receiving yards, maybe career receiving touchdowns. I don't have the numbers right in front of me, but I'm just saying, like, he is a record breaker. If he stays healthy all year, he could end his Buckeye career with multiple career receiving records. Why? He's just that good. He's also the leader in a room that's really inexperienced and unproven. Some guys in Ennis and Tate are unproven, but have a little bit more experience than Smith and Mylan Graham and Bryson Rogers. But Egbuka's a guy, a leader, a stand-up individual. From everything I've heard about him, that's what you want. Now, the next 5. We're doing 8. Next 5 are a little bit different. These guys will not be representing Ohio State at Big Ten Media Days. However, I do think they are individuals that they're on the list of possibilities of players. And if someone turned it down, say, hey, oh, yeah, let's go to him. Next one, you're going to go through these a little bit quicker. Tuimoloau, JT Tuimoloau. It's a no-brainer to me. A 4-year guy, a guy could have gone to the NFL and been a day 2 NFL draft pick, staying in Columbus. Probably going to be a day 2 draft pick right now. Once again, could be a day 1 draft pick. However, has to play out of his mind to be able to do that this year. But Tuimoloau is one of those individuals that simply, to me, embodies Ohio State. Speaks volumes about what his play, the way he carries himself, is exactly what you want in a captain for Ohio State. Donovan Jackson cannot give a big fellow on the offensive line enough love for the way he is as a man. He's well respected. Yeah, his play on the offensive line has not been as great as some thought it may be based off some of the high school recruiting rankings and things of that nature. That doesn't matter. Doesn't matter at all. What does matter is, does he lead? Is he a leader? Is he someone that can represent Ohio State in a group of 8 and saying, hey, your peers are going to vote you into this role? I do believe Donovan Jackson is that guy. Travion Henderson. I don't think Ryan Day will continue this conversation he's had on numerous interviews about, hey, when Quinshon Judkins said he wanted to transfer into the portal, we reached out to him, or he said he wanted to come, but all of a sudden, Ryan Day went to Travion Henderson and said, hey, Travion, Quinshon wants to come here. What do you think about it? Ryan Day didn't have to do that. Didn't have to do that at all. But there's a respect factor there for Henderson that Ryan Day has. And I do believe when it comes to Quinshon Judkins coming in and Carlos Lockham coming in, they can look to Henderson for some leadership. Now, Henderson also has to be a little humble. Not saying he will not be, but it has to be humble and realize you got a new coach. Going to do things a little bit different than Tony Alford. Didn't recruit you to come to Ohio State. Keep your mind right. Keep your mind and your mission focused on task no matter what, and things will be fine. So I do think Travion Henderson is a guy. The other two, to me, these are kind of easy. And not everything on the show when making predictions is easy. Cody Simon. Now, I don't think you would have been drafted last year if you went off to the National Football League. I know that his decision ultimately was to stay in Columbus and do that thing this year. Great, cool. I'm happy for him. But, man, talking about a middle linebacker, your Mike, coach on the field, controlling things, getting everybody in the right spot. That's Cody Simon. Now, you may say, Jay, he's not an All-American. He might not be first team All-Big Ten. That's true. That's not a problem. That's true. That doesn't matter, though. Was Cam Babb one of those guys that was an All-Big Ten guy? No. Boy, did he have. He had the respect of everybody on the team. He had the respect of his coaches. He embodied what Ohio State wanted in a player. The rest is history. Blocko jersey, scored his first and only touchdown in a Buckeye uniform on senior day. Man, you can't write that script no better. And last but not least, Lathan Ransom, another 4-year guy. Unfortunately, battled multiple injuries that really have set him back occasionally in his career. But one thing we know about Lathan Ransom, that boy is a dog on the football field. And he is exactly what Ohio State wants in a safety. Man, he got Ransom and Downs back there together. Ooh, that's a diamond for opposing defensive coordinators. These are my predictions for the 8 captains at Ohio State. Potentially 8. Not sure how many they'll have. These are what I got for you. Jack Sawyer, Denzel Burke, Emeka Egbuka, J.T. Malowau, Donovan Jackson, Travion Henderson, Cody Simon, and Lathan Ransom. Who you got? Do you think I got it right? Do you think I would add to the list, take away from the list? Let me know. Hop in the YouTube comment section on this video to put your thoughts into these thoughts about who you think should be captains for Ohio State in 2024. We're out here, y'all, on a Monday. Thank you for making Locked On Buckeyes your first listen every day. Now for your second listen, check out the Locked On Big Ten podcast. I've mentioned it numerous times. The everydayers realize this is the week of Big Ten Media Days, 23rd, 24th, 25th in Indianapolis, Indiana. And Locked On Big Ten podcast is the place to go to stay up to date and to get a preview of this massive annual event, kind of the unofficial kickoff to the Big Ten football season. Ohio State will be front and center tomorrow. Then more schools will be there Wednesday and Thursday. Other schools will be there with Ohio State there on that Tuesday as well. Craig Sheeman with the revamped Big Ten podcast, Locked On Big Ten podcast, that is. It will keep you up to date. And, hey, we'll have you talking about all the stuff going on inside the Big Ten football conference. Now we're out of here, y'all, on a Monday. You can follow me on X at JSteven07. We'll see you next time.